and relatives, and then take the money out of town at the end of the day to the neighborhoods they live in. I call that a wealth extraction strategy. So that's one of the other problems we have with the food system, specifically in the city of Detroit. So we have the problem of access, we have the problem of disrespect of people who are purchasing in the stores, but then also we have this food system which is very detrimental to the environment. And most of you probably know that the industrial food system that provides the vast majority of our food is highly dependent upon petroleum and petroleum-derived fertilizers and pesticides. And of course, a lot of this was engineered as part of the so-called Green Revolution after World War II to kind of create this new system of agriculture that was bigger and better and, you know, supposedly was going to feed the world. And then they began to export these ideas to different parts of the world. So one of the impacts of this so-called Green Revolution has been that it's concentrated land ownership in the hands of a few. In fact, the Agriculture Secretary Earl Butz, I think it was in 1972, he told American farmers, get big or get out, right? And so all this idea of the small family farm and all that, you know, they're trying to kind of get rid of that and move everything to these highly industrial farms, either owned by multinational corporations or who sell all of their product to the multinational corporation and thus have to adhere to whatever guidelines that corporation has for the production of the food. So that's problematic on several levels. One of the reasons it's problematic is because most of those farms do monocropping, which most of you probably know means they grow one crop primarily. And as I've been driving through this area, you know, I'm seeing lots and lots and lots and lots of corn. And of course, you know, corn is king pretty much in America. And so they get lots and lots of subsidies for growing corn. Most of it now is genetically modified, which is another problem. But so this monocropping system, corn, for example, takes lots of nitrogen out of the soil. And so if you grow corn year after year after year after year, you deplete the nitrogen from the soil and you have to replace it typically with chemically produced inorganic nitrogen that's been produced in a laboratory or factory or something like that. So the problem is that these artificial inputs that we're putting into the soil often leach into the groundwater, and the groundwater empties into rivers and streams, and those rivers and streams empty into lakes and oceans, and so then we have 120 dead zones in the United States where there can be no aquatic life because the water has been depleted of oxygen. And so the main contributor to that is runoff from industrial agriculture. So the current food system is dependent upon this very environmentally unfriendly way of growing food. And again, that's not sustainable. We can't continue into the future producing large amounts of food but destroying the environment in the process and destroying the topsoil. You know, we're losing tons of topsoil every year because of the practices that are being used, where if we started adopting sustainable practices, we would be building the topsoil instead of depleting it. So that's another problem with this broken food system, that it's not environmentally friendly. And then there's all kinds of health problems with it. You know, in places like Detroit, often people say, well, you know, it's a food desert, and so what we need is more supermarkets. But then supermarkets are typically part of the problem also. And Michael Pollan has done a lot of writing and speaking about this. But the way grocery stores are typically organized, the whole foods are kind of on the aisles around the outside, the perimeter, and then the things in the center aisles are the highly processed foods. Now the thing is, in the American food system, the majority of the money is made with those highly processed foods. You know, where you're adding multiple ingredients and, you know, preservatives and coloring and all kinds of, that's where the money is made. It's not made by selling collard greens or ears of corn or peppers. There's no real money in that. I mean, the way this food system is going, right? And so, I mean, very few farmers even want to fool with that because it's very difficult for farmers to survive doing that. So the supermarkets are set up to kind of seduce us, to get us to buy a whole bunch of junk that we would probably be better without, right? All that processed food, our health would improve tremendously if we just left all that alone. Santiago. That's my brother in the back. He's a revolutionary too. I'm just gonna put him on Front Street. What's up, Santiago?